I guess we can kick it off, and maybe we'll just do a quick intro for some of the folks that might be new coming from the UMA side and haven't been with us yet on a Friday. Yeah, we like to keep it pretty casual, open forum discussion, but really use this time to kind of go over what's happening in the Badger world, talk about what's upcoming, some exciting stuff, talk about a little wrap on governance side of things, and then open the floor up to folks to come join the conversation. If you got any questions, we're always interested in hearing people's experience with Badger, their DeFi journey, sharing stories. Yeah, it's just sort of a fun Friday hangout. And then, of course, this week, with a big announcement yesterday coming out of Badger and UMA World, we're excited to have Hart join us today, talk a little bit more about what's going on in that partnership, how it affects Dig, which seems to be the topic of the week or last few weeks for a lot. So excited to dig into that. And yeah, with that, I'll pass it over to Chris, John, or Frog to kind of kick it off with what's been happening this week.
Sure, I'll take the baton. So let's do this. I'll share like an overall product update. Maybe Frog, if you want to go through any governance stuff, and then maybe John, then we can dig into either something that I didn't cover from a product standpoint, and then we can go right into like the dig options stuff there. Just, and you can help lead that. But in general, for everybody, as usual, we've been plugging away, busting our tails, trying to ship products that we've been working on for quite a few months. So we launched the Yearn Vault last Friday, and within a few minutes, it filled its cap. In talking to the team this morning and over the last few days, we're contemplating opening up the cap a little further this weekend, from a security standpoint, really trying to give more of a bounty to people that want to take a crack at trying to exploit the vault. We've obviously put it through an enormous amount of testing, and same with the Yearn team. But if there isn't enough capital in that vault, it may not grab the attention of the most talented um, hackers out there, right? So it may make sense to open it up to about 7 to 10 million, have it be there for a week before we open it up fully. So that's a little bit of an update there. Of course, we've been pushing forward with the launch of the bridge. We're aiming to have it launched later today. We're just going through some additional final testing, and we're obviously really excited about it. It'll be the first bridge. There's kind of a few things there that are headliners, if you want to call it. It'll be the first bridge to have mint and earn functionality, so you can go from coin right into earning interest with a couple clicks. And then it'll also be the most incentivized kind of bridging program that anyone's kind of put forward. I think we have about $6 or $7 million allocated to reward those that bridge with Badger, native Bitcoin onto Ethereum, and then eventually BSC when we open that up as well. So that's very exciting, and it more importantly starts to bring the vision to reality, right? Of being the one-stop shop for all things Bitcoin and DeFi, and being the best place to put your Bitcoin to work. Today you have to deposit LP tokens primarily, but moving forward, with the WBTC Vault, and then of course with the bridge, users can come with either one of those single assets and start earning interest right away. So that's on deck. And then of course, we're working towards the launch of interest-bearing Bitcoin, which is slated for late next week, barring any additional testing that's necessary. And then with that, and we're going to continue to kind of push forward with this, which is this idea of having a guarded launch whenever we bring new products to market. So with Yearn, we did, a $3 million cap, then we'll move it to a $10 million cap, and then open it up. If it wasn't Yearn that we built with, and them in particular that devised the strategies and so forth, we would probably have another stage up to about 30 million before opening it up. But in this instance, we feel relatively confident, especially because it's been in an experimental zone on their side for almost 2 months as well. So we'll go and open it up there, and that's the process that we're going to be leveraging moving forward. In interest-bearing Bitcoin, we're most likely going to have a similar process where X amount can be minted in phase one, X amount can be minted in phase two, phase three, and then open it up to everybody. So this practice, I'm really excited about. Obviously, it brings more more fortitude to our security practice, and I think it's important to not rush from, hey, here's a new product, like let's get $1 billion in there in a week. Times have changed, at least for us. We don't need that to happen overnight, and we want to be more cautious and conscious to use funds and deposit into Badger. So the guarded launches are we're going to be continuing to push on, and also introducing an experimental zone. We're going to have it in the Badger Arcade, and the stability vault will probably be the first vault that starts there. So again, another step around security. Instead of having it in the main app where anyone can jump in, there'll be a separate section, and there'll be different types of just communication on that page around the experimental nature and the newness of that potential product or vault. And that's really the extent on the higher level product side. Frog, did you want to dive into any of the governance type stuff?
Sure. Yeah. Just one note on the bridge side. Shake has updated the configurations. He's just running a few more tests, and then we'll be doing a final round of testing. And assuming that the user testing goes well, yeah, today would be the big day. So excited for that. In terms of governance, we have, since our last call, BIP 59, which is grants month 4, that Jay put together for the March retroactive grants, and then the April monthly and quarterly contributor grants. That has passed snapshot with 96% approval with 180,000 Badger. So for those interested in learning a bit more about like the new compensation framework and the processes around like time commitment, function, performance evaluation, check out the BIP on the forum. And secondly, BIP 52, which is the when clause token design contest. So a separate collaboration with UMA, not necessarily the topic for today, but the clause product that we've been building for the past few months. We've had community members submit. I don't have the number on hand. Actually, Will, do you know how many submissions we received?
Yeah, we had 56 submissions total.
Awesome. Yeah, so we had 56 narrowed down to 10, and those will be posted to Snapshot shortly for the community to vote on the logo for the clause token. In terms of governance, that about wraps it up.
I just to add some color there, Frog, around the grants BIP. What's important. The important step that we've made here is, we have a performance evaluation framework now, right? Which we didn't have before, and this entire process is very eye opening because, this is all new, right, for companies, especially protocol based DAOs like Badger, that now manage hundreds of millions of dollars, right? Like this wasn't nothing like this existed a year ago. So defining a framework for contributors to get involved, for the core team to have some level of performance evaluation, accountability and commitment around time and effort and resources that those contributors put into the project, I think is really good. And hopefully for other protocols that are looking to design their own frameworks, they can take a little bit from us as we've tried to take from other people as well, and mash it into what makes sense for us. So yeah, check it out. And of course, any feedback, share away. John, anything on the product side that I didn't hear me, by the way, John?
Thanks. Yeah, no, I think you covered most of the super active stuff. We did have a AMA yesterday with the Reflexor team, which is kind of one of the first. We're kind of figuring out how this process goes when a project reaches out and wants to do a more kind of in-depth collaboration. We're kind of figuring out where Badger fits in the whole DeFi ecosystem, and one of the strongest things we have is the community and the focus on Bitcoin. And as I think the main topic for today's show is we're going to be a pretty big user of DeFi, and we want to kind of make sure that when people bring Bitcoin through the bridge or just to Badger, in general, that they have access to the best stuff to use in DeFi. So Reflexor had put out a general information post, and we've been talking to them for a little while about doing a stable credit facility with Bitcoin backing it. So if you're not familiar, they basically have a fork of Maker with some of the governance components removed at single collateral and just ETH for now, and the interest rate is algorithmically controlled. So it's not a dollar pegged asset, but it's a stable asset kind of relative to its initial launch ratio to the collateral. So it's a stable credit facility anyway. But kind of going through the process of getting general information post out there, pretty good feedback on that. Host an AMA, we did that yesterday, and that is on YouTube now. And I think the next step is pretty good feedback. We'll start engaging with them more closely to build this out, and then as it gets closer, any assets that need to be deployed for incentives or things like that will go through the BIP framework. So just kind of a new framework we're working through for partnering with projects more deeply to keep the community informed of what we're working on, making sure it's kind of aligned with the goals of the community, and getting feedback. So that is on YouTube, and also on YouTube we post all of the bi-weekly Thursday office hours sessions. So I guess we'll shill for that. Go check that out. And other product stuff. I think that's really the main stuff that's launching soon. As I said, bigger focus on vaults recently, and then some of the bigger partnerships. But I guess we can roll into the main topic from today, unless there's anything else we want to touch on.
Yeah, no, I think let's roll.
Yeah, so the dig options. We have been working on these stability for a while, and that was to be the long-term main support mechanic for dig. So we've been working on the stabilized team. We've talked about that in different scenarios. So basically, it'll buy Bitcoin with positive rebasing dig in from the vault when it's above peg, and then when it's below peg, it'll start deploying that WBTC to buy dig. So hopefully bring some stability through just general market interactions. Very close to getting that launched. We'll also be doing a guarded launch with that as well. This is pretty experimental vault, so we'll probably be pretty careful with this one. Start small and kind of work our way up. But the main question was, well, we're going to launch this thing, and if dig right now is under the peg, so there's not going to be any Bitcoin for it to deploy. So it would be much more beneficial to have dig be above peg at and around the time that we were launching the vault, so it can start putting away Bitcoin, so that if and when dig does go back below the peg, it will start deploying it, and then you're kind of off to the races, and it'll kind of run itself. There are a few parameters we can manage based on how it performs and adjust over time. So Chris and I talked and kind of looking around the ecosystem for what mechanics can we use. The meme competition was able to get dig above peg for a couple days, but I think we wanted something bigger than that, and just saying, hey, we're gonna increase rewards in dig form just didn't seem like the smartest move, just to pay without really knowing if it's going to be successful or not. So this was obviously a few weeks after the launch of the UMA KPI options based on UMA TVL, and that was kind of still fresh on mind. So that was a model that I kind of proposed. I said, hey, maybe we can just do these options based on the rebasing of dig. So we make sure that if we are deploying deploying any rewards above and beyond what we're doing currently, that we only do it if we're getting the result that we want. And what do we want? We want positive rebases during the time that we're launching the stability vault. So the options are perfect in that we can time box them around the launch of the stability vault, and then we can make sure that we're not overpaying for the result that we want. So that if this fails and it doesn't work, it doesn't get above peg as much as we would like, then we still are retaining assets in the treasury versus, okay, we spent a large portion of the treasury and it didn't work, and now we don't have much ammo left. So it's about kind of like retaining dry powder. So that's where the angle we came from, and reached out through the UMA team, and they were very open to it and excited, and we're put together the post yesterday detailing who's going to be eligible to receive these options. So the move is we take a chunk of dig, put it in a smart contract that's basically the reward pool for the options, and then we airdrop the options, which are just an ERC20 token, to everybody, and then based on how many rebases we get with dig over the time span of the options, the duration before they mature, everyone will be able to claim some portion of that pool. So it goes from 0% if it's less than 5 rebases to 100% of the pool will be available for claiming if we hit 30 rebases. And claiming will just be proportional to the number of tokens, number of option tokens that you have. So very excited for this program. We're calling it kind of conditional liquidity mining, so you can be much more targeted in how you deploy assets to incentivize certain economic activities in DeFi. We're pumped to see how it plays out. The game is live. The game is afoot. It started once we put out the post. So we're paying attention to everything that's happening, and we'll kind of adjust as we go. But I don't know. Hart, anything you want to share from your end, or just give a little bit of overview on, I guess, how the options for the Badger folks here, and how they kind of settle, and that mechanic is a bit unique. So I'd love to get that color from your end.
Looks like we might have just lost him.
That's amazing timing.
No kidding, eh?
I've never seen better timing than that. What, John?
No, he was just like, I didn't know they're going to ask me questions. Oh,
yeah. Oh, you want me to speak? All right, I'm out. See ya.
Guys, yeah, that was like, that shows just my total noob. I hit the fucking leave quietly button rather than the unmute button. That was really dumb. Wow, that was dumb. I have used Clubhouse before. John, what I was going to say before I disappeared for 30 seconds is that I don't really have anything to add to your really pretty spectacularly concise and accurate and awesome summary of, I think, how this works. I think my role, honestly, is I'm just like your hype man here. Like, I think the way you even outlined it is so spot on and so creative, and actually, frankly, speaks to the creativity of the Badger team. Where you guys, there's Dig needs some help to get back where you want it. You've invented, or you've come up with this great stability mechanism, which I think is also a really brilliant design. And then you guys looked to see if there is a quick and easy way to create an out of protocol incentive to help incentivize the action you want here, which is getting some positive rebases in dig. And I'm just like kind of in awe in the DeFi money Legos thing that we could do this so quickly. And I think it makes a lot of sense. Again, we'll see how the experiment goes, but I'm just like super pumped to see this in action and just to build this with you guys. So yeah, I awkwardly left for 30 seconds, but I'm really just here to be your hype man.
Well, Hart, talk about like how UMA actually enables this, right? And like how it ties into, why you even built the framework to enable other protocols to do stuff like this.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, like at a high level, and John spoke of this, the concepts are pretty simple. It's like, hey, let's take a pool of assets in this case, like dig or bdig or whatever. Let's take a pool of assets. Let's define a series of other tokens. So these are synthetic tokens. These are tokens that we are like making up. And those tokens will pay out some amount of the underlying assets based on like any arbitrary metric, really based on anything. And so in the classic synthetic token, you do it based on the price of something. So if you think of like Maker's DAI, DAI is worth $1 of ETH in single collateral DAI. Here, we're just taking the exact same concept and we're creating a synthetic token. This is going to be the dig rebasing option. We're creating a synthetic token that pays out based off of a metric that you and John, the Badger team, have designed, that you think this is the metric that is going to incentivize the behavior you want the dig protocol to have. And it's like kind of as simple as that. Of course the challenge goes in like, what is that metric, and like does it actually align incentives in the way you want? And again, where the way John was describing this, it's like the dig protocol succeeds if there are positive rebases. The dig protocol has a treasury of dig assets, and so this does seem like a really elegant way to align incentives across the board.
Yeah, well, what excites me about this, Hart, is, we talked, John was talking about the stability vault and the importance of that, and that's always been our vision on how to drive stability in a rebasing asset, where other people have used bond and coupon models and partial reserves and a variety of things. This has kind of been our up to bat. But at the same time, when you look at rebasing assets today, dig, Ampleforth included, the buy mechanic, having people buy when it's below, which is what the protocol is supposed to do, inherently, it really doesn't happen as intended, right? Like we can use a dig example and then we'll use an Ampleforth example, but like on dig, why did dig go to peg last month for a few days? Because everyone was buying it to join the meme NFT competition, right? That was not because the price was below and organically traders wanted to trade the protocol mechanics and buy when it's low so it goes high and starts rebasing and they earn on it. That's not why. Ampleforth, the same thing. When does Ampleforth make rises and get above peg? In almost every scenario, it's been because of some type of like short-term external event. If it was YAM having Ampleforth as one of the deposit assets in DeFi Summer, or just recently, Ampleforth announcing a separate governance token for their protocol, like but that none of that stuff for dig or for Ampleforth is sustainable, and it still it still highlights this semi-broken mechanic on the buy side. So with this, and it being a new type of form of liquidity mining, we call obviously rebase mining or conditional mining. This is technically something that could be ongoing moving forward, in the same way that you want to distribute incentives in any form or fashion, but it could do what is necessary on the buy side. Like, why are people buying dig and pushing it above peg? Because the longer it's above peg, in number of days, the more rewards that they'll get. And you can very easily figure out how much rewards you would get, and you can determine the price that you'll be willing to spend. Okay, maybe I'll spend 2,000 because if it's above peg for 30 days, I'll make 7,000 or whatever the number is, right, in terms of rewards and things along those lines. So that's something that I'm optimistic that if this does prove to work, it could be something repeatable, and it could be something that may be an anchor for rebasing assets to do and leverage using moving forward, to just make the complete picture, to really show what a rebasing mechanic could accomplish. And the fact of the matter is a rebasing mechanic cannot accomplish its intended goal of being at peg with either a volatile asset or a non-volatile asset without external factors. In this instance, using dig options plus a stability vault plus the rebasing mechanics. And I think a lot of other rebasing protocols are gonna look to what external mechanics can they implement to really help with it. That's how I see it as well, Hart.
Yeah, like Chris, just to add to that, like let's just call the rebase protocol, like the Ampleforth base rebase protocol, let's call it incomplete as it stands right now. We just have evidence that it doesn't work as well as it needs to in the case where you need people to buy. So to me, this is just a brilliant, like a brilliantly lightweight way to iterate on how to fix that. And so we do these dig options. Like I'm fairly confident that the actual metric we scoped this month won't be the perfect one. I think it's pretty damn good, and I really do think it's going to work. But what I also love about this approach is we're using this out of protocol tool to figure out how to iterate towards a better rebase protocol, I think. And so we'll do it this month. I hope we do it again next month based on our learnings, maybe tweak the algorithm a little bit of how we calculate this based off our learnings. And I really can see a future where we use these out of protocol incentives to improve the rebase protocol and actually arrive at something that is a complete and like sustainable protocol in and of itself.
Yeah, I think what Chris kind of called back is the sustainability of it, and that's kind of where we are. A couple months into Badger being live, is looking at everything and saying, okay, how sustainable is this? So looking at farming, I think there's a distribution period where you're just kind of getting tokens in the hands of people, and you don't necessarily need to be that efficient with that, because you're essentially buying a community by having good returns and getting the Badger and other assets in people's hands. But then once you have the community built out, you obviously can't keep emitting assets at that rate in perpetuity. And if you want to get people to use the various assets and tools, you need to still incentivize them to do so. So what, kind of thought about with the meme competition was leveraged liquidity mining, meaning we can use some amount of assets and probably get higher buy pressure and interest by doing it through a game versus just distributing it also to a vault as you would otherwise. And I would consider this in the same category as just trying to be smart, where this is, hopefully, because of the gamification, because people don't know exactly how it's going to play out, I think everyone kind of assumes they're a better player than average in these various money games. So ideally, you do get some sort of leverage in how people are reacting, but then you're also only paying out if you're actually getting what you want. So you're just being smart with it. So as far as sustainability of Dig itself, I think it's just something a key component that can be sustainability of farming. Just like UMA, where you're great, let's distribute UMA to users of the platform, but let's not do it if our TVL gets cut in half between now and the end of the year. You don't want to be paying people 300% APY forever, because eventually that will stop. The token will drop in price, and there won't be real value to it. So I think all of it is kind of tied together as a core component of Dig, but also just a core component of how Badger can move stuff forward in the future, and we're excited to kind of see how this one plays out.
Yeah, like John, I think it also, I think at a really meta level, it speaks to just how damn dynamic the Badger community is. Because even what you're talking about, there's different objectives at different stages here. Like what you're talking about, you can be inefficient distributing rewards early on because you're just trying to grow a community. You guys have grown this amazing community, and you guys can and should be dynamic about how you fix the problems in front of you. So the other aspect that I really like about this is it aligns incentives and keeps it all. You're not overpaying. You pay if it works, and you don't pay if it doesn't work, which just is perfect. But you also have a lot of flexibility to change things up based off of the changing environment around you. And I think at a high level, there's a lot of power in that. We're trying to engineer a perfect protocol from day one that never requires any changes or any help or anything whatsoever. That's really tough to do. I think it's only been done by Bitcoin, right? Everybody else has to make changes and has to have some dynamicism in it. And I think that very much shows in your guys' approach here.
Yeah, and we're going to see this a lot, right, Hart? Badger was one of the the post DeFi summer kind of protocols that got off the ground and was able to build like a sustainable foundation, right? With a focus and a good community and good treasury and things along those lines. But we're gonna see a lot of projects kind of accelerate quickly because money just sloshes around like ridiculous, right? Like, you look at a protocol. It took us like a month and a bit to get to like a month and a half to get to a billion, and at the time that was like wow, like that was a huge feat. Now it happens in like 10 hours, just to show the speed, right? Like it's just happening continuously rather than like back in DeFi summer. It was like, well, it all went into YAM. It was like literally the entire the capital and all of DeFi got sucked into one protocol, and that was like half a billion or whatever it was in that first day. So, this is going to be something I think a lot of protocols are going to have to face, right? You can't give out tokens forever. You're going to need to be dynamic, and then I think a lot of community members are going to look closely to align with teams that they feel like can weather these types of storms, right? Because these and this didn't exist before. You look at, in the past, like when investors or people are looking at, like myself included, like buying a cryptocurrency, the last thing I was thinking about was like, how is this protocol or business gonna continue generating money, and what does their cash flow look like, and what is the team behind it that can dynamically kind of come up with different types of products that I actually want to use on a day to day. Like this, just those types of things never went through investors' minds because it was more like, oh, like what does that white paper look like, and who are the advisors and investors, and like let's dump a bunch of money into this thing, right? So yeah, it's going to be an interesting landscape, and I'm excited to push it forward with you guys too.
Yeah, and like Chris, so you're right. The speed of like money is like in this current environment, money is like the cheap thing, right? What you guys have built, what is not cheap, is community. Um, and then I think that flips into like what you're doing with these dig options too. It's the very fact that like, okay, if this works, the community wins together. I think is a really powerful concept that fits well, like very naturally fits with the Badger like community and ethos. So what I love is this concept of, we're going to do these dig options. If dig works, we get our positive rebases, everybody is winning together. Um, and I want to keep figuring out with these KPI options and with similar strategies. These are like the KPI options are very much a financial construction. Like we're building a financial product, but the point of it is to align collective action and to actually like really kind of turbocharge with financial incentives that community feel. So I don't know. I get excited about that.
And I think the granularity is important. Like, with the TVL option, I like that a lot. It's great. At the same time, it's not like someone technically that day will say, all right, what am I going to do right now to get more money in my pocket, right? To juice
Yeah,
up my rewards, like right
yeah,
now. And the more granular you get, which is why I like, the mechanics that we've built in here and the conditions, which are like the more days, the more rewards, and then each day the percentage of those rewards unlocked go up as well. Someone could sit there and say like, all right, dig is it's a little bit under peg. Let me do my part to get it there, because if it gets over there, I'm going to make X amount more tomorrow, right? And I think that
yeah.
granularity as it ties to actions, assuming that those conditions and actions actually align incentives and help the underlying protocol that's issuing these options. I think that's the winning formula.
Yeah, like to underscore what you said, I think the granularity here works better than say like the UMA TVL options. So to someone else I've made this point, and it's like I'm aware of it. UMA TVL options, it's like, okay, how am I going to create like for an individual to be like, how am I going to create $100 million of TVL? It's like you kind of throw your hands up in despair, and it's like there's nothing really you can do. That's like I think a critique of the idea. But with this dig options, by being more granular, it's like, and particularly the fact that it's over a month, like I can very much see a circumstance where we get 8 positive rebases in the community, and then people are starting to cheer. They're like kind of like going wild trying to cheer this thing on. And like, really, I could see there being a lot of like fun memes, community, whatever else, where we're kind of keeping score as a community, trying to get from 8 rebases to 9 to 10 to 11 to 12, right? And look, we'll see if that happens, but it would be really, really cool to have this turn into something super fun. Kind of like I was looking for a while at the Ampleforth Telegram group right around in early days of Ample when they were doing their rebases, and right around like I forget what time it was. It's like in the evening, people were going crazy just trying to see how positive that rebase could get. I'd be kind of cool if we got a similar type of community feedback happening here.
Yeah, we saw it early as well with Dig. I remember, there'd be an announcement like 3 hours left, and this is where we're at right now. And then you'd see a lot of people talking and activity, and then you'd actually see a pretty big lift in volume, on the exchanges and people trading during that time frame to get it to where they wanted to get it, which is great. But again, like everyone's attention span is just it's all over the place nowadays with how much is going on in this space. So the granularity, to your point, I think on a day-to-day basis is important.
Yeah, and I mean on the point of attention span too, I think if there's any challenges we have with these like dig rebase options right now, it's that there is so much going on. People don't even get it between now and like in the next month. And so like that's the one thing that I want to try to be loud about. And I think these are really grokkable. It's like, guys, like if we get this thing to rebase positively, we all make more money. I really hope we can get that into the minds of the Badger and surrounding community, because I think it is so cool. But like Chris, I am a little bit worried that people just won't even see it because there's just so much noise right now.
Yeah, no, it's part of it, right? And I think in general, that's also where we shine. I think Badger's good at getting the getting the word out there on different initiatives. So we're obviously going to keep plugging it away. But it's definitely something we need to watch closely. That's for sure.
Yeah, totally.
Why
So
don't we?
John, or
I was.
what I was
Go
just
ahead.
gonna,
Go ahead, Hurt.
I was just gonna ask John if he sees like John, where do you see this going? What's your dream, man?
my dream. Yeah, I mean, it's part of like everything we think about is kind of in the overall Badger context. And I think sustainability is something we just talk about all the time. It's moving from farmer to someone actually in a project that has farms. It's you shift your perspective from, okay, let me farm as much as I can and get it and sell it and move on, to, okay, well, that's kind of the perspective people are coming from. How can we still get people in, retain TVL, have enough fees, but while still bringing value to justify those fees, so that we can get positive cash flow into the operation, which I think is necessary to kind of sustain the thing, and bring great products to users. So I've used a lot of DeFi stuff, and I think I mentioned to Chris before, like I think Badger can end up being a huge user of other DeFi protocols, and kind of consolidating them and making them available for folks that are bringing Bitcoin into the system. And I see this, like I said before, like another Lego piece to kind of play with.
I
Hey
think we
guys.
lost your audio, John.
Yeah, that's John, not me, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, that was kind of, the call came in through a speaker. But yeah, no, I mean, end state, there's two things. It's okay, can we make this a sustainable part of how Dig retains sustainability? And I don't think at scale a rebasing asset has been tried where it's purely kind of external market forces that are driving it versus which, I mean, everything's a market force, but there's been a lot of the different seigniorage mechanisms or different debt type instruments, and I guess there's some similarity in all of them, but purely making it, okay, let's use traders and people's capacity to speculate on the asset, and not just its price, but how it interacts to drive that end state of sustainability. And we've got other plans we're already talking about, and thoughts for how to use things like Uniswap V3, where you can isolate liquidity around certain price ranges. That could be very helpful for these types of assets. In talking to the community, it's been Dig's been on a bit of a not a great track record the past couple months as far as its price and its market cap. And fortunately, a lot of it comes down to timing. We were working on the stability set; we had to get that pushed through. But these options weren't something that we knew about or even really existed over the past, depending on how far back you go. So we don't know exactly what will come in the future. These components seem like great pieces to work in now and see how they interact. And once we have those data points, we'll be evaluating, and who knows what else will be available at that point to either use with them or on top of them, or however, to both stabilize Dig and then see if there's that information isn't just about Dig. It'll be for how do we want to do long-term incentives for Badger staking or Bitcoin staking down the line. Can we tie that as we kind of get this clearer vision about what Badger is and the value it brings, and what actions will lead to sustainability of Badger? How do we kind of pepper those in to how people are interacting with the app and the protocol and the team? So it's an open kind of design space with these things, and we've got a nice narrow focus on it right now. And I think I see this just possibly another core component of how yield farming works in general, liquidity mining, or however you want to reference it, and then ideally another component of if our hypothesis on how to sustain a rebasing asset is correct, could possibly a core component in that as well.
I love it, man. I really do.
Well, we got 15 minutes. Why don't we open the floor? Anyone that wants to come up, ask questions, chat, say hello, tell their Badger story, whatever, really whatever floats their boat. And yeah, we'll go from there. Wesdick, what's up?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Pick.
Yeah, you guys like that?
Yeah, I saw you followed me on Twitter. I think I was one of you just launched the account just like a couple hours ago or something.
Yeah, I did. This is my first attempt at I guess an anonymous Twitter account. So kind of wanted to get it started actually prior to even all of these KP options for Digs announcements. There's been a lot of discussion. I've kind of chatted with DeFi Frog a little bit, William, but there's a couple of us trying to get a lot of kind of community content out there on Dig, and really try to make a bit of a guerrilla push in terms of marketing campaign in the next probably week or so.
Nice.
So more to come. So this was kind of my attempt to try to match my Twitter account to what I'm trying to do. Also hoping to maybe do, as you guys probably can tell, I'm a bit of a Weezer fan, but might do a secondary market kind of a Weezer NFT Badger launch in the coming weeks or months, where maybe I track a different NFT to each album and stuff. So just fun stuff. But Hart, great to hear you talk. Really excited about the KPI options. In fact, I think the whole partnership with UMA and Badger's one of the most exciting ones out there, and it's really been cool seeing how the KPI options have been used to incentivize behavior across DeFi, both in terms of just the options that UMA has out there right now. I saw your message on incentivizing referrals, which I think is really, really quite brilliant. And I think, Jonto, on your part, getting the Dig KPI options out this quickly, really a brilliant and awesome. Kudos to everybody on the Badger team for this. But what I wanted to ask, I guess, and what I wanted to kind of, I think maybe this isn't a question so much as just kind of a thought, but, the challenge with Dig, in my opinion, aside from the fact that DeFi is a complex world to begin with, Dig is like, complex wrapped in 3 other layers of complexity and thrown out there. And like, I think the biggest challenge, and this is where I'm hoping we can help differentiate this, is really the long-term utility. Like, a synthetic that's, pegged to a volatile asset like BTC and is also an elastic rebasing coin. It's like a few different complex pieces all boiled into one coin. And but on the flip side, it's a brilliant, I think, move for a protocol that's entirely DeFi, focused on bringing Bitcoin to DeFi. And the long-term approach here, I think, has been the challenge. And I don't know, any thoughts on that, I think, has been, I'm willing to listen on this because I want to try to help, produce some content to help and spread more understanding on Dig. The short term is always kind of the same thing, right? If DeFi is a crowded room, everybody has ADD, and they're just looking for the quickest win. Gamification of things always help. We saw Dig pop probably 20,000 prior to the NFT contest, and that was when, that's March 26th, that's 3-4 weeks ago, of additional negative rebases that have since transpired. But long term, the utility, I think, is the really cool part about Dig and how it complements the Badger ecosystem. So anything on that Spadaboom, William, DeFi, anyone here, John, thoughts on that, I think, would be helpful as somebody who's trying to help produce some content to help further that understanding in the community, would be great.
Yeah, Chris, I mean, so Weezik, like, first of all, I love everything you're saying here and producing, like, hell yeah. Also, Weezer NFT things I think would be awesome. I also think your questions, like your point around this thing is complex, like Dig is a complex beast, is accurate. And I think thinking of long-term utility here is really interesting. I remember, I think, Chris, you were telling me early on that the ideas for Dig actually predate the ideas for Badger. So maybe you can speak a little bit about like where you think Dig can kind of go in its, glorious future.
Yeah, totally. You're right. So, we actually built Dig before we built the vaults. And, Badger became Badger. And it used to have a different name. I'm not going to say it here. But neither here nor there. The idea was always to have, a synthetic representation of Bitcoin without any need for custody, right? That was always the idea. And there was also a market opportunity because no one's attempted to do that first. So we thought there could be a great first mover advantage, with Badger and what Badger's become and its reputation, and its overall community and vision and direction. I'm growing to think the long-term vision around Dig is, you know if Dig is integrated in all the major protocols because of how early the space is today, you think a couple years from now, right? If we're able to get stability on track in the coming months, and you look at an asset, a year from now or 2 years from now, you look at an asset that's been relatively stable for an extended period of time against a very attractive asset like Bitcoin, but potentially has other opportunities to put that asset to work that maybe you can't do with straight Bitcoin, for example. But it's also everywhere, and it's kind of in the seams of the DeFi ecosystem, which is going to grow exponentially more in the coming years. That's where I see the long-term utility of Dig, right? Because there's quite significant value in an asset that you can do a bunch of things with, regardless if it's complex, not complex, Dig, or something else. And the more that there is to do with it, and the longer it's able to prove its ability to replicate Bitcoin without any need for custody, and also the additional places you could put it to work, that you can't put to work with, a wrapped Bitcoin or Bitcoin in general. I think that speaks to it.
Yeah, I think what you said, if I can say it maybe slightly differently, and I don't want to take away anything, but if I'm going to farm, I want to farm and get rewards in Bitcoin. And the idea of Dig representing Bitcoin in a synthetic representation, there's not going to be anything else out there that can do that. And it's such a complementary reward for a protocol that's entirely based on bringing like native Bitcoin to DeFi, right? And not having the custodial aspects of things like wrapped Bitcoin is just another benefit. And the challenge for me, and I try not to get, it's easy to get kind of on these Discord channels and get, there's a lot of salt right now in the air. But everybody can throw around different things, and I'm not trying to like say that other protocols aren't doing the right thing, but nobody has the partnerships that Badger has, right? Klondike has out there, Rune, Thorchain. Like, I actually like the fact that Badger's letting Dig get to peg a bit organically, because it's actually going to baseline in a place that we know has value in it versus something that's going to stabilize right away. And like long term, when I think of Dig, short term, these things we're doing now are great. Long term, when I think about the utility on Dig, why would I want to farm anything else? To be quite frank, like if Dig is a representation of a synthetic representation of Bitcoin, and I can farm that and get Dig, like that's kind of the name of the game here. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody's trying to accumulate more Bitcoin in some way, shape, or form. So I just think, to me, I think Dig is a genius play in that sense. Um, and I think the challenge right now is trying to share that understanding with the community, which hopefully we can have some ideas here in the coming days and weeks that we can post out there. You'll see. You can follow my my new Twitter anonymous Weezik page. Hopefully, I'll have some stuff coming out on it that William's been really cool about helping on and stuff. So, but really excited about the coming weeks. Really excited about the KP options. I'll let anybody else talk. Sorry for taking so much time, but really enjoyed listening to everyone today.
Yeah, thanks for joining. No, and just to add to that, like, I agree. That's really really important. And as it relates to just the short term kind of sentiment, like that's part of it, right? Like that's what crypto's all about. There's a bunch of maniacs, including all six of us up here on the stage and everyone else in the room, right? Like we're all part of the weird bunch, and we all choose to be part of this bunch, and I'm proud to be part of this bunch. But it comes with its up and down. It comes with its ups and downs, and we're going to see that all the time. And I think once Dig gets there, when they're meaning stability. Another thing to point out as well, right? Like look at Ampleforth, okay? Ampleforth is kind of part of that original crew. Uma, Hart, you'd probably throw yourself in that bucket as well, right? Like DeFi protocols that have been around longer than a lot of the new ones, that are kind of integrated on all the major exchanges, all the major protocols for lending and borrowing, all this type of stuff. And they're kind of looked at as the quote unquote blue chips, if you call them. When things happen, like, hey, Ampleforth is coming out with a governance token, like everyone's talking about it, it's on every major exchange the same day, like all these types of things happen. Protocols like Badger, they don't necessarily have that level of attention, and I don't want to use the word respect, but kind of respect from the overarching industry yet. And rightfully so, we've only been around 4 months, and we got our room to prove what we're looking to do. But I think with that, right, you fast forward again a year or two from now, and continuing to ship, continuing to have a ridiculous focus around security, continuing to be community first all the time, and have this truly be a community first project, and then obviously having a real impact on bringing more Bitcoin to DeFi. I think that in itself will just further enable any of our assets, Dig included, to just get that much more love from the market. And with that love, I think it naturally just helps you accomplish, or helps your protocol accomplish what those specific assets are trying to do. And in our case, of course, have more buyers and sellers and around Dig, and to keep it in a place where our external mechanics can help it stay more stable. But is there anyone else that wants to jump up? We got a few minutes here. I'm more than happy to take as many questions as people want to throw out. Alrighty. Hart, anything you want to add before we wrap up?
No, man, Chris, you just know this when we talk. I just I'm. It's worth looking back at Badger's so fucking wild what you guys have done in the last few months. It's just insane. So I just I'm just so floored at the community you guys have built. And I really am your hype man here, where it's just like I'm just in awe. So, well done, guys. I think this is gonna be super fun. I I really think the concept should work, and I'm looking forward to seeing Dig kick ass and iterating with you guys.
Totally, dude. I appreciate you joining today. This is fun as always to chat. I too am super excited about the Dig options. I think they're gonna have a major impact, and we'll make sure that we scream it from the roof and make sure everyone knows what's going on. John Fry, John Frog, and Will, anything you guys want to add before we wrap up?
No, good. Looking forward to getting these. Guys, keep an eye out. There were some kind of more vague details. We're kind of getting all the launch data together, and still taking feedback from the community on exactly what the criteria will be and how it will shake out. But we'll have something to share closer to launch. And obviously, part of this is also geared around the stability set, which is going through audit and stuff like that now. So probably a lot more details on those on that stuff next week.
Sweet. Yeah, no, nothing major on my end. Just a small little update. Shake's manual tests on the code look positive, so we're. I think he sent over a note to Dap to push it through the multi-sig, and then we'll kick off user testing.
Sweet. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining as always. Hart, thanks for being the special guest this week. And until next week.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Hart. See you next week.
Thanks, guys. Chat
Thanks,
soon.
everyone.
Sweet. Bye-bye.